As above, so below. It means that what is destined to come we must inherit. What happens in the realms on high must happen in the lower realm. If you fail, Blacklay fails. We, your servants, fail. If you triumph, we triumph. If you disappear, then we disappear, my lord. You can read as many tomes and smut as you like, but Gadwich is wrong. A kingdom needs its ruler. It needs its lord. So, please, come back to the castle. What's up, everybody? Riz here, and that was directly an excerpt from today's roleplay log that we're going to review. Minas Mordred, As Above, So Below. And this is a log done by Ike Zofu. It's part 2 of the Minas Mordred series. And the characters in it are Zofu, Flamance, and Reva. The type is a combat, and it's training for Arcane Bolt. The arc it falls under is the Lord of Blacklay, and the synopsis basically is that Zofu faces the legions of vampire, which protect the gates of Minas Mordred. Punctuated by flashbacks of his preparations for this battle and his first attempts at teaching magic, not just to the students of Blacklay, but also his servants. And when it comes to this log, I feel both honored and intimidated to review it because it is such a work. I've told you guys several times in Discord, and I've probably said it on the mud too, like, you guys really should just read this story. When Ike posted it, I kind of was a little behind on logs, and I just happened to start to read it, and I just found myself reading it throughout the day. And I didn't read this log because it was something that was put on the forums and it's my duty to do so. I read through this log because I was interested in the story and the way that it was written and the way that I was just interested. It wasn't like it was something that I had to do. I just found myself doing it. I was reading it. I read it a little bit while I was getting ready for work in the morning. I'm just sitting there brushing my teeth, kind of scrolling through it. I read through it on my lunch break, and I want to say I finished it when I had some downtime at work. I was just kind of scrolling through, and rather than, going through Twitter or anything like that, I just found myself reading this log. It was that good. And I feel intimidated because I don't know if I can tell you guys what happens in a way that's going to not, one, spoil it, and I don't even know if the way that I'm going to tell it is going to be as good as it's written on page. This was a very wonderful written log, and as it says, it kind of still pulls from different viewpoints, right? It's still kind of pulling from, it's still kind of pulling from, going from talking about the battle which happened, which is the most recent. I want to say that's like the current timeline, but then also talking about things in the past in preparation for it before we get to him and the Hobbs attacking Minas Mordred. And it kind of does all come together, and it does have a meaning for it, and it's at the very end that it all comes together. So I will say, my critique when I first read it was, why are we reading about the battle, right? I know that in my first Minas Mordred log review, I said, hey, we kind of want to see Zofu's side of things, the combat that happens was just kind of really easy, and it wasn't really a challenge for him, so, show me the challenge. So Ike threw that in there. I hope that wasn't for me. I hope that was part of his plan all along. But we kind of see that. But the real meat and potatoes is the past and the way that Zofu has an approach to magic. And I've been thinking about this for a very long time of, with Rizian, everything is very much so magic fused with science, confused with, you know, like there's things that we know, there's things that we don't know, and then there's the unknown. And Riz is trying to be like in between the first two, and Zofu almost 100% lives in the unknown. And I finally found a way to describe the way that they approach magic. Rizian is a wizard. If you're a Wizard of the Coast guy, then you know, like in D&D, wizards are the ones that study magic, and they have spell components that they use, and they have wands and staves and, you know, magic items and everything like that. Like, they can do magic, but they have to have components to do so. Zofu is a sorcerer. Zofu is like, screw all that, just do it. Just make fire in your hand and then launch it at somebody. You don't need to have an orb filled with dragon ash and you know, like, you just do it. And that's kind of like the gist of what this is. That's kind of the gist of what Zofu is trying to explain. That is what the writer is trying to tell us that this character believes is how you function magic, is that you just do it. Like in the log itself, he even says, like, once you describe how it rains, then the magic of the rain fades, right? When you believe in something so strong, and then someone tells you, like, no, that's not right, this is actually what it is. It had power before, and then, like, it's the knowing that takes away the power of the unknown. And Zofu is very much the power of the unknown is where magic is born. But let's try to get through the synopsis of this log. It starts off with the battle, right? Where Zofu is the trespasser on to Minas Mordred, and he is progressing through, and he even says, like, you know, all it takes is one bite for one of these vampires to bite him, and it's all over. So he doesn't want to tread in the shadows. Doom awaits beyond these doors. None can slay what slumbers in these halls. Hope hath no home here, turn back. That's what the Lord of Minas Mordred is telling to the invaders. But again, the log kind of kicks off in here in the green text, and I looked at this part and I thought, is literally any of this needed? Right? Is any of this really something that we need? Because it's a great way to like frame a scene. It's a great way to tell us a story. But is it fluff? And at first I was like, yeah, this is just fluff. This is just filler. But here's the trick. Here's the power of Eichenbot. It's not filler, right? Like, you get a plate and you're like, hey, I ordered a steak. Why do I have like a pound of mashed potatoes and gravy? Like, I want my steak, right? Like, why are all these side dishes taking up space on my... And it's like, because it's good for you. Eat it, dummy. Read it, dummy. It's good for you. So basically the log opens up. The actual log opens up that Zofu is not in the castle. And right here it says, like, they have been abandoned again. Their lord was gone. And then there was a light, and a star, a dazzling blue comet that lit the darkness. It was racing over the surface of the salt lake in the lower Shalinor Valley. It shot out, flickering left and right like a slithering serpent head following the fiery tail of blue embers. When it finally reached the other side of the dark lake, it exploded, crackling firework that briefly made the winter night flash. What is he doing? They ask. He's preparing. So this whole talk about Zofu being gone and all these people who have been looking for him, we get another named Hob, who was the gardener, was the next to confirm that he had not been there for their afternoon tending of flowers and herbs. And for a planet that has no sun, they have flowers and herbs on it, and he's not there to tend to them, so they're going to die. Why is he not here? He's not even in the dream halls. Like, what is going on? So like, okay, Zofu's not here. That could have been a post, like Zofu's not here. But there's so much care to tell you what he is leaving behind, and then we come to find out why. He's training. Zofu's off training his Arcane Bolt. I'm gonna call Eichenbahn's skill Arcane Bolt because it just, my mind, I'm growing old and I need that simple, I guess I wouldn't be really alliteration, but I just need that kind of rhyme. I need that naming scheme to help me remember it. So then we get, we see that he's training in the past. We see that he's training for his Arcane Bolt. We get back to the fight, and it's good combat. I mean, he's just whooping ass and then getting his ass whooped. This part got me diamond hard. And if you guys don't know, you just don't know. Like, you just don't know, right? Like, you just don't have the 12 years of history that these two words together mean to Eichenbahn and I. So I feel like this was directly for me, and I loved it, and it was wonderful. But Get Up is like, it's almost like the mantra between the Kuma clan and the Psyhardens. Like, that is what solidified the rivalry. That is what solidified the friendship between Cade and Ragnios. And they have passed that on to each other. And it's just what they say to like really push each other, right? And it's just wonderful that it extends even to Zofu, who has done everything within his power to not be this. Zofu has tried so hard, and he really, really tries to not be a as he calls it, a pajama wearing, knuckle dragging idiot, but he is exactly that. He loves his combat. He loves to show off. He loves to shoot his big, he loves to shoot his Kuma Shinrays. And he is very much his father's child. Whether or not you guys ever know what I know, he is Damashi's child. He is, and he just has to accept that. So we have the combat, and then we get back to Flements and Zofu were talking, and Flements went with him to help him train, and he's really talking to Zofu in a way that makes me curious as to why. And I said previously in another log that I reviewed with this character, Zofu is so bound and tight and uptight to where I feel like the smallest prick in his head's gonna explode, right? You're just like, hey man, he's like, and he just loses his shit when he's around other people. But when he's around Flements, this character gets to like talk to him in ways that nobody else does. Even in this section right here, Zofu is like, this is the first time you've ever called me Zofu and not my lord or sire. I know exactly how that would go to somebody else, right? Instead of Zofu looked over at Flements and grinned and then said that line, we would get a whole bunch of red text where he's invoking the name of his father, or he's not invoking the name of his father, he's invoking the will of his father. And it's like, you shall address me by lord or sire, and Lord of Blacklay, 99 titles, and it's like to keep putting up that affront of like, bitch, I'll end you. But Flements is one of the few people that doesn't ever have to worry about that. He actually smiles that he feels so comfortable around him. And it's not for me to say who this character has a very close relationship with, but I feel like there are people on channel who want to get to this level with Zofu, and he just will never let them in. He will never let them in. And maybe that's just the character. Maybe that's just a character flaw with him, is that he will never let anybody get that close. I don't think Len could have ever gotten that close, and Len was like Zofu's dame, right? Like they were a thing. And to me it's kind of interesting to see his switch, because I said before, like in these solos, like Zofu is just very relaxed, and he argues with people without like threatening them, really. Like you just have a conversation like you normally would. And so yeah, they're kind of going on about, Zofu, you need to go back to the castle. You need to resume your duties because you're killing morale, right? And this is something that I was thinking about with Hypo. And I know that it's going to be like, well, why are we talking about Hypo and Zofu log? Hypo is the leader of Canvas and is now trapezing around on Earth. I know that he probably has people speaking for him, and he's probably in contact with Canvas back on Nighello or wherever they're based out of now. But just the fact that you're not there, you're not the leader in just name. Like, people need to see you. They need to interact with you. They need to know that, you know, the things that you are doing are in their best interest to move this whole movement forward. So when you're not there, you start to let the chain of command starts to kind of break down, right? You need to be the one at the top pulling the chain, getting everybody going. And clearly right here, like, you know, Ike kind of talks about that of like, yeah, the castle's falling apart because you're not here. Like, it's great that you're out here training. You need to do that, but we kind of need you to go back, right? And Zofu's kind of like giving himself a way out of saying like, oh, well, there was this guy and he had this rule of sages, and it says that, you know, truly powerful and wise ruler doesn't even need to be present in his kingdom because a true ruler creates a set of laws and edicts defined and beloved, that he should not even be there to enforce it. And Flemis is like, yeah, no, get your ass back to work. Pretty much. And that's where the whole, like, you know, as above, so below comes from. And he says, like, no, that guy is wrong. Like, you need to be there. You need to be present. And then we kind of jump back. So we learned what he was trading for. And then we now get to see it, right? The Star of Blacklay, the Arcane Bolt. And it just obliterates the battlefield, right? Which is something like I know everybody would love to do, just like, you know, line up a whole bunch of NPCs and then charge your energy blast. He uses 50 RP energy to do this, and the really funny thing is, like, eat your fucking heart out, Taco. This is what real magic looks like. So we see that competitive edge in Zofu. We see that Zantetsu that he denies himself of being. We see it right here. He just says it, right? And I almost wish, like, his dad would make an appearance and be like, yeah, I fucking told you, like, you couldn't throw a punch like your brothers, but you want to fight just as much as they do. You are every bit my heir. So we see the battle, right? And from here, I feel like this could have been it. This could have been the log. And that this next part could have really been a whole different story. Because then we get to see Zofu and Flemens are having a conversation about why he can't teach his servants how to do magic, right? And Zofu's, this is where I was saying before, Zofu was talking to, like, I have to teach the kids magic because the kids are blissfully ignorant and they will believe anything that you tell them. And they will, if you tell them that, you know, a man in a red suit and a hat is going to fly through the sky and come through a chimney that you don't even have and leave you a present, and he's going to do that for every child on the planet, they'll believe it. And that's what magic is. It's like that belief of doing something impossible is what magic is. It's not studying these books. It's not saying these words. It's not knowing that when you strike this flint on this tinder, it's going to cause these chemical reactions, and that's what fire is. If you believe that there is a spirit of fire that exists in this rock and you're just waking it up, then that's what magic is. And he's like, yes, that's what it is, Clements. Shit. That's what I'm trying to tell you. But you're an adult and you can't fathom the way that they do. So I need a child's mind. And so the beauty of it, the beauty of this writing is, okay, so what's the answer to that? You know, like, if you know how to do all these spells, how do you teach them magic? Teach them a spell you don't know. And I was like, damn, that's deep, bro. That's good. That's a good one. Teach them something you don't know, because then you don't know how to teach it. And so we now get to see, at a later time, Zofu has his Hobbs. He has the children. And he's just talking. And he is a student. And he's like, hey, what spell do you guys want to learn? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what spell do you want to learn? Like, anything? Anything that you want. And so she's like, okay, all right, so my mom made me this effigy, and she's gone, but, you know, can we cast a spell that lets me talk to her? Can I tell her that I'm all right? Can I tell her that the castle is safe now? I don't want her to be worried. And right away, he's like, oh, she's going to become a powerful sorcerer, right? He right away is like, she gets it. She has the mindset and the will that is strong enough to become powerful. And like I freaking said at the beginning of this, what does he call her? He doesn't call her a mage. He calls her a sorcerer. And oh man, so this next part is kind of hard to explain. So it's one of those things you'll just have to read it. But Zofu basically sets them on a task. He's like, okay, so you want to do this? We're going to do it. This is what you're going to need. Go do it. And we get that it's a month later, and Flemis comes in and is asking, hey, why didn't you stop them? And Zofu was laughing his head off. We've never seen Zofu laugh. I have to imagine it's something like the hyenas from Disney movies, or, you know, like a weird, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Terminator trying to smile with like a Joker cackle. Like, that's the kind of laugh I'm seeing in my mind's eye. So essentially he's like, hey kids, if you want to cast this spell, you're gonna need one of these. He opens a portal and he lets them go, and Flemis is pissed. He's absolutely livid. And I get it, because they're children. They're demon children. But Zofu is embodying something that I myself, as a human being, not even as a roleplay admin, just me and my actual living, breathing, real life workplace, love and embrace and appreciate so much. I'm gonna tell you guys what Zofu's one instruction was when he said to go get this. You ready? And I'm gonna have to back up because I'm gonna get kind of loud. He said, figure it the fuck out. That's what he said. Figure it out. That's very personal to me, because there's not enough of that in the world. Everybody needs to be told, instructed how to do stuff. And Zofu was like, hey, you want to cast a spell? Great. The thing that you need is there. Go get it. Figure it out. Come back. Do the thing. That's it. Go away. and then they're gone for a month. Their parents are worried about them. And then we get the one thing that I said earlier, right? Where he invokes the tone of his father. He's like, you see them as children, and I see them as mages. These are the first mages of Castle Blackley. First sorcerers that this castle has produced in recorded memory. And in their first foray into the verse bears with a promise. The egg of a phoenix. They did it. They needed a phoenix egg. He was like, here's a portal. Go get a phoenix egg. And then these children came back and did it. I was like, hell yes. I was cheering. I was so happy. Oh my God. And he is explaining, he's like, that is what I'm trying to tell you. The unknown, the dangerous, the seemingly impossible is what magic is. And then they kind of go forth and cast their spell. And he is basically having Reva create this spell to talk to her mother. And he's really just talking to her and asking her. He's not instructing her, he's asking her, and she is making it up as she's going, right? And that is kind of why when we were doing the Yule, I really wanted this character to come back. I needed Reva to come back because I was such a fan of hers during this reading. And the fact that she was the one that stood out, I was like, no, I need her to come back. And so we kind of see that, you know, sorry, let me back up. From the moment that Reva had awakened her sorcery, the Lord himself left and returned to his tower, tired and weary. He collapsed onto his bed in a breath and sigh of relief. So she did it. She cast her spell and was trying to speak to her mother. Or sorry, not trying to. She did speak with her mother, and she spoke to the dead, right? She crossed through dimensional boundaries and spoke with her mother. She didn't resurrect her. She just spoke with her. I would say in a way that Baba, Master Roshi's sister, does in Dragon Ball. So it's not like it's outside the realm of reality within the realm that we're role-playing in. And she just does it. So then we finally get back to the battle. And we see, you know, the result of Zofu's Arcane Bolt. Arcane Bolt, God bless it. And this right here. You know, so they're like, what was that? How did you even do that? Is that a spell? What was it? And he's like, that was the Kuma Shinrei. It was my Kuma Shinrei. He said, but let's not call it that, or we'll have an army of barefoot pajama-wearing meatheads knocking on our door for their next greatest concussion. and what's funny is that, you know, let's call it the Comet of Terror or Blacklay's Falling Star. And Zofu's like, no, just call it the Arcane Bolt and don't write it down. He was like, I'd prefer that in ages to come, when some upstart wizard decides that it's time to kill me, that he didn't have a grimoire detailed on what he should expect and prepare for. Kind of like what I'm doing right now. Because when he said that first part, I was like, isn't that exactly what you're... Oh, okay, so you're aware. That's exactly what you're doing. Gotcha. Ha ha ha. And so how does this wrap up? Everything that we've read, all these stories and everything that we've done, everything that we've gone in the past, and how does it have to do with anything in the present? What did teaching the kids even have to do with anything? So we get past the fact that Zofu just annihilated all the foot soldiers, right? And he comes up and he tells Reva, the first mage of Blacklay, we're now in the present. She spoke to her mom in the past. She's in the present. He brings her to the front of the battle. Flemis is losing his shit again because, you know, you brought a child to Minas Mordred. And in the tone of his father, no, that's the first sorcerer of Blacklay. Put some respect on her name. And she then is doing something. And Zofu's like, I don't know what she's doing. Right? But it's wonderful. I'm seeing her cast her magic for the first time. And she then, you know, kind of talks to a vampire who had just been killed through the veil with her spell. And you know, the vampire's like, who is this that's calling me beyond the dark beyond? Who is it that's knocked on the door of Minas Mordred? And Zofu says, I'm Zofu of Castle Blacklight. And then Reva corrects him and says, Archmage Zofu of Castle Blacklight. And Zofu was kind of like, yeah, I like that. That's a flex. I like that. And then it ends with, now there are more questions of my own you will answer. So, woo! What a ride. What a ride. Again, I don't know what to tell you guys other than, like, this was my favorite roleplay I have read in recent memory. Even going through it again, I'm like, yeah, that's right. That did happen. Oh, this is so good. Oh, like I felt feelings again. This is a story that only a master of his craft could do. This is a very good story. How is it as a role play? Like, I guess it's all right as a role play. This is a better role play than the first one because we get to see Zofu as a character. But there's just, like, you can't even really call this an RP because it kind of goes beyond the scope. Like, this is the pinnacle of solo that we should all try to ascend to. These are parts falling into place. Like, if you guys have ever played, like, Tetris or Puyo Puyo, right? Like, you're stacking all of this stuff, and then just that right piece falls into the right place, and it all comes together, and blocks are all falling, and you're just like, oh, I didn't even see that. Oh. So, like, we need to have the end of this story. We need to just see how it all comes together. Hopefully this is just a 3-parter. I would hate to see that this goes beyond what it needs to, right? Like, don't make this a One Piece category when you could have wrapped up the story in one season, right? Not that I don't want more of this, but I feel like for this story that we're being told, one more chapter, right? The final chapter of, like, what did this vampire have to say and how do we get to the end? I think that would be perfect. If I were to say anything about it, I mean, there's no critique I can say. This is a perfect log. The best one that we've ever had on channel, the best one we've ever had on these forums. Yeah, I mean, there's just nothing else that I can say. There's nothing else I can add. This was perfect. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.